Welcome to DJCC On Air, the destination for Dallas area young professionals. Looking to take it to the next level personally and professionally? You've come to the right place. We connect you with cutting-edge thought leaders who share the secrets to driving successful businesses. We infuse your lifestyle with business, networking, information, and innovation, all while covering the top trending topics for young professionals. This is DJCC On Air. And now, here are your hosts.
Welcome to DJCC On Air. I'm Zach Lewis, sitting here with one Kathleen Denoyer. Kathleen, how's it going?
It's fabulous. The 2018 is already off to a fantastic start.
It is. I like the way you rolled your eyes when you said fantastic. So what's going on in DJCC this month?
We have a lot. January is always our slow month because the board turns over and the board has to have their retreat. But we are having our happy hour at the Stoneleigh third Thursday of the month.
The Stoneleigh?
The Stoneleigh. What
is that?
The Stoneleigh is attached to one of the hotels downtown.
Oh, okay.
It's in Uptown, like right across from the Ritz-Carlton.
Have you been?
We've done several things with them over the last couple of years.
Okay.
So they're kind of one of the stalwarts that really just wants to make sure they insert their name for the year. So January was a good time to do it. We did our Christmas party there 2 years ago.
Right. Had the Christmas party, speak of the devil. Our last episode was Welcome Back with the Elf Society and John Hall of the Elf Society. We did Christmas things for the DJCC. How'd it go?
Everything was fantastic. The Elf Society, my EVP, Sarah Curley, cried.
Did she really?
When we were volunteering
no.
because we were down south at Kids World in South Dallas, and we were dealing with these kids who really, they don't have anything. And so it was quite a blessing.
Everybody loves a crying volunteer. Like, no, come on, you got to hold it together.
Yeah, but I'm not the
kids.
volunteer to shed a tear. I can't.
Right. So I know you probably just said this, but I missed it. When's the next happy hour?
The next happy hour is January 18th.
January 18th.
At the Stoneleigh.
The Stoneleigh.
Yes.
Gotcha. So today on DJCC On Air, Season 3, Episode 2, we're sitting down with a fairly unique guest, somebody I'm familiar with, somebody Kathleen's a little familiar with, people who follow our Facebook page are probably very familiar with, Heath Oakes of Second Shot, as I know him, the hit podcast that is a blast to be a part of. We actually just finished recording an episode. That'll be out later today as we're recording this. But for the DJCC, he actually got tangled up with these people. He's going to give a speech, which I can't wait to hear more about. I would let Kathleen kind of give him an intro, but I think the man can speak for himself. Heath, welcome to the show.
What's up, guys?
How's
Glad
it going?
to be here.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. I mean, maybe your listeners are probably like, wow, that's a real redneck voice.
I love it.
You got like perfect Zach over here that's got like that perfect radio, and then swing in the strong redneck, and it's just like, bam.
I'll see if I can't throw some East Coast in there. I'm going to call you next week. See, there it comes out.
Oh, wow.
That's from living on the East Coast for 4 years. It just pops out.
One of my assistants was from Boston, and it was hilarious because I always knew whenever she talked to her parents.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of a sudden she was like this really sick, like thick Boston accent. Mm-hmm. And every time she talked to her parents, they go, oh my God, your boss is turning you into a redneck because you sound more. And it was hilarious.
Just picking that right
Yeah.
up.
Actually, when I moved to the East Coast, they gave me trouble about that too, because when I would talk to my mother, because I call my mother Mama and Daddy. Mm-hmm. When I speak of them, I say mother and father because very proper, but Mama and Daddy, so they'd be like, why are you just all of a sudden Southern? And I'm like, I can't help it, Daddy. It just pops out.
No, I dig it. The more time I spend in front of a microphone wearing headphones talking to people, the more I have to appreciate accents and twangs. Like I love that.
Yeah, but
kind
here's
of
what
stuff.
doesn't make any sense to me about you. You grew up in Houston.
Yeah.
How do you have like this like Midwestern no accent?
You
grew up in Houston.
I know. My only explanation is my parents are from Michigan, and we go visit Michigan like a couple times every year.
Oh, a couple times, but
So I
you
don't know, I
live
just
in Houston
got it
and
from
you
my
have
family,
like
I guess.
zero accent. You've got that Midwestern thing where it's like that perfect, like you've got the perfect voice for the radio and all that because you're so in the middle of the road, but you grew up in Houston.
It's true. Well, let's swing that proverbial pendulum the other way. Heath, where'd you grow up? Where's your accent from?
East Texas.
East Texas. Where specifically?
Tyler area.
Tyler. Now, I believe it or not, Tyler's...
You
go
just said
ahead.
specifically, and he said Tyler area. He
Right.
didn't even get really
Well,
even honed down.
That's like me. I'm not really from Houston. Technically, I'm from Spring, but like people don't know that. I'm just like, Houston. Yeah, like...
Sure.
Okay, so the next troop and went to Carlisle High School.
Carlisle High. Boy.
I graduated with 23 people from a public school.
Did you really?
Wow.
23.
I graduated in top 20, baby. So see, I don't ever have to. I usually just say I graduated in the top 20. I don't explain that there was only 23.
Right.
But yeah, the public high school, kindergarten to 12th grade was 500 students.
Yeah.
And were you all in the same building, or did they?
There was 3 buildings.
Okay, but it was the same campus.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I think there was actually 2 elementary buildings. There was the junior high. There was a high school and a cafeteria in the middle.
And so you were saying before we started that you played football. Did you have a full football team? I imagine.
Oh yeah. We had full.
Of course, everybody had a full.
Yeah. We had a full football
Yeah,
team,
it's
but
East
we are the
Texas, yeah.
small. You know, we were back then. We were 1A, and so now they changed the whole. It goes up 6A now. So I think it's moved to 2A.
Are you half A? No, you're not half A.
Basically, they're actually bigger now. It's a little. I mean, they have like 35, 40 people graduating now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty
That's
big time.
crazy.
Big time.
This is gonna sound silly, but who's the mascot of Carlisle High?
Carlisle Indians, baby.
Indians.
Of course.
boy.
What you gonna do?
Not gonna jump on that grenade. So moving forward, how does a young man? Heath, how old are you?
Just turned. Oh well, I keep saying I just turned 30.
You want to
because I
stick
never,
with 30?
Because you know what? It
Did
was
you not just
sad
turn 30?
to move from the 29 to 30.
It's a big
There's
leap.
a big difference of being able to say you're 29 versus 30.
Yeah,
It really
well,
is.
I've hit 35, so in the little surveys, I'm no longer like the 21
Nah.
to the 34 and then 35.
Nah.
Well, see, that's why you're the president. See, it's good to be
Because I've got the age on me.
Yeah.
Thanks.
the experience and maturity, Kathleen.
yeah.
That's what you've got.
Sure,
Yeah.
we'll roll with that
And
one.
and I'm 25, and that's why I'm the radio guy. So I think you're square. So I guess the first question to ask is, how did you get tangled up with this DJCC organization, and how is a guy from Tyler now giving a speech? Tell us a little about you. Listen, what do you do now? What's your
Okay, so what's interesting is that Jeff, the owner of
this whole network?
this whole
really?
network
Yeah.
is a friend of ours, my wife Jenny and Victoria, his wife and stuff. So we were friends, and so then I met Sarah, a long time ago with that too, and then so I've been here doing the Second Shot podcast, and Sarah brought it up to ask to come on, but. I graduated high school, and I graduated 18th out of 23. So
It's pretty good.
Still top 20.
I barely got my butt across that stage.
Yeah, I was like 400 something, so
yeah.
you're all right.
Yeah, but out of 800.
I think statistically, like proportionally, I think you still got me beat, honestly. But
No, think about it. 18th out of 20. I'm not. See, Zach, you're smarter than me. 18th out of 23, percentage wise, is top 10%.
Where's the
You had to be
calculators?
1 or 2.
Yeah. Can we get somebody to crunch the numbers on that?
Yeah.
I'm not a math whiz. Not at all.
I didn't go to no math school. Yeah, I went to radio school.
Well, I didn't go to school.
Right. You finished high school, and you did a semester of
A
college,
couple
right?
semesters of a junior college.
Right.
They literally, you had to. I didn't take SATs, ACTs, none of that. There was that little junior college test thing you take, and so what was funny, I realized. So there's like 3 levels of remedial classes. Your third, second one till you could take real college. Well, I qualified for the 3rd level of history, English, science, all of it. So it was so funny. My second semester, I go, oh, how many? I took 12 hours a semester. I said, how many hours do I have? They go, you've got 4. I said, no, I've been here. And they go, well, none of those count for college credits because I go, so you're telling me I got to pay for the next couple years, and then I get to start paying for, now I'm out. So I left. School was not my thing, and started selling cars. Didn't take me very long to realize that wasn't what I wanted to do. So,
But you were good at it.
I did, yeah. I'd made. It was the first time I ever made real money. I mean, I waited tables and did every. I was the kid at 13 driving plants around, selling them on my 4-wheeler and trying to make money off of it. If there was a way to make money, I figured a way to do that. I bought my first truck at 13 for $250.
Wow.
And it was running, and I sold it broke for $500. So, and I kept trying to trade up and get a little bit more.
He's an entrepreneur. I love it.
So.
That's fantastic.
What was funny was I liked the car business, but I just realized that I wanted my name on the building. I didn't want to be working there. I realized I wasn't going to get there that way.
You weren't walking the lots. You were painting, making sure the lots got painted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I started in the insurance business. Somebody said, hey, look, if you look at anything that I engulf myself in wealth and building that, and I have a book called Ignorance on Fire, Journey of Failing Your Way to Success that kind of talks about,
by the way.
kind of talks about a young man's journey from starting out that I was nothing but money that mattered, the only thing that mattered, and how my journey turned from I love money, and I will continue to strive to make it, but it changed from being the most important thing to the byproduct of true success. And so how my journey turned as a young person, that's what that kind of really kind of led to. And so everything you read about wealth, building it is residual income of some sort. So insurance was something that you sell today, and if you take care of your people and they keep paying, you make money on it. So you build up a big book of business. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do that, and it didn't take anything. The problem was then is, again, I'm not that smart, and you got to take an insurance test and pass it to get a license, and it took me 4 times. So it's so funny because now everybody across the territory, when somebody's like failed it a couple times, they're like, well, Heath, and call Heath. I'm like the epitome of like, if anybody can do it, like if I can do it, anybody can.
Go talk to him.
Yeah.
He didn't do it, but he does it now.
Yeah.
He succeeded.
He failed it many times.
He overcame adversity.
Yeah. My book is called Ignorance on Fire: A Journey of Failing Your Way to Success. And so I started doing insurance, and then I started my own insurance agency and built it up to $2 million, and I sold it and had started another agency from scratch and moved on with Colonial Life and went corporate with them. At 23 years old, I was the youngest corporate executive with the company, took over state of Florida, came back after a couple years of taking it over, took over North Texas, got to move back home, and am now a senior territory executive with Colonial Life and oversee all of Louisiana, Oklahoma, and I've had about 600 or 700 salespeople total, $80 to $100 million book of business I oversee, and we'll do 35 to 40 million in sales a year. Plus, I have a restaurant and bar I own in Tyler, and I have a lot of real estate that I own, and so all kinds of ventures of business and sales, which is really sales is one of probably my first loves of it all. But recruiting, I'm a big recruiter. Recruiting has been probably the number one reason of my success because I've hired some of the best talent you can ever have. I mean, they've made me look really good, and there's more state managers across Colonial. There's 47 of them, and 5 of them I brought into the company and developed, and they got promoted, which is more than anybody in the 80-year history. So it wasn't just built on predicated on my success. It was developing others to success. And when they got promoted, I lost them. They went on to do their own thing. So but I encourage that.
Right. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to bring you in to talk to our group is, so I am at the edge of the millennials because I'm 35, but I think there's this backlash. I was a great student. I had a perfect GPA. I have 2 bachelors. I did 21 hours a semester, et cetera, et cetera. And then I was dumped out into the world after grad school, and the economy was in the toilet. And suddenly, all of a sudden, this A student who could do everything in school has struggled. I make no bones about it because I'm past that point in my life, but I've struggled for the last decade to figure this out. I do not have near the portfolio you do have, but I think what this sort of contrasts is the lie. Yeah. The lie that our generation was told when we were growing up, that you have to go to college to be successful. And if you don't have those book learning skills, you'll never amount to anything. Because the most success I've had coming out of school is my sales experience, which you can teach sales training, you can, hone your craft, but the ability to rip the Band-Aid off, make that cold call, and just make a fool of yourself and not worry about it, but close the deal because you're good at making a fool of yourself. That's what made me my money, not my fancy degrees.
Well, everybody says, if you look at my wife, you realize how good of a salesman I am because I married up like a champ. And so simply
She's beautiful.
Everybody goes like, well, how did you just approach her? I goes, because I'm not scared. All she can do is say no. Like, I have tough skin. I was in sales. Like, I got told no a lot. So, if I was at least going to go for it. And so she didn't say no. So I got a shot. And now I married her.
Right.
I wrapped that up, put a ring on it about 6 months. I said, I ain't letting this go.
Nice.
Yeah,
I like it.
Sales skills is imperative. But I'll tell you, this is a hot button of mine because you're correct. See, it's... So the difference of our country, see, that's what you were told raising, and even though we're very close in age, but yet my mom was 16 and had to drop out of high school. She got pregnant. My brother married my dad. My dad went to the Army. They got out and worked.
Yeah.
College wasn't something that was like you have to go to college to do stuff because my parents weren't educated in the college world. So it wasn't something they go, don't do. It just wasn't as heavily as that conversation. And being out in the country so rural that I'm from, not a lot were. So it wasn't as heavy on my end. Now, here's what I tell people, and this is what gets me about our system, is I 100% believe in education.
Right.
You can ask anybody that knows me, I'm consistently educating myself. Reading, learning, pushing the limits of, I became a pilot because I wanted to learn about aviation and how that worked. I'm one of those people that have so many random things I'm involved in.
Right.
Because I want to learn. I don't believe in the institutional education system that we have. I think it's broke. I think I don't think that is. I think it needs to be fixed.
There's a lot to be desired there, and I agree with you completely on that.
But when people say education, they need to start qualifying it as institutional education, because education and institutional education are two things.
Right.
You need to be a lifelong learner. The only way for success is to be a lifelong learner. But the problem is you're going to take a kid like me that I was so clearly you could define who I was at a young age, to stick me into 3 remedial classes of math and science and all of that when I was going to have nothing to do with that, and lost all of my interest when, in fact, if I would have been put in a situation where there was actually some learning of things that I wanted to know, that it was very clear from a young age I was not going to be I'm dyslexic, and so reading was a struggle for me, writing was a struggle for me, all of that stuff was tough. So if there would have been a lane of the education that I didn't have to learn the hard way, like that I learned, I wish I could have had the cool college experience, but I didn't. I couldn't go. I couldn't afford it anymore. I wasn't going to sit there and keep going and not get the hours. So I think there's a misconception around education. And a lot of people will have a misconception of me on it because I didn't go and think, I don't care about education. No, I care about education. Yeah. Just not the institutional education.
Yeah. Well, and it's 100% true. Some of the most successful people I've met have issues, quote unquote, learning disabilities. Yep. And to me, I don't think it's a disability. I think you just learn differently. But we have this rigid, and it is broken, a public school system education, or this idea of institutional education. And I speak from experience as a mother now. Is that there's only one way to learn.
Yeah.
That's book learning, and that's reading and writing papers, and that's just not the reality. Like you said, you believe in education. My greatest educators were my parents. Yeah. And it had nothing necessarily to do with the fact that they had these advanced degrees. It had to be with the fact that they could not stop, like you said, learning. They were always learning. They were always reading history books, always reading, scientific publications, National Geographic, et cetera, et cetera. So that is where I got most of my education, was literally directly from my mother and father. Going through the school system for me was just kind of a check mark. Yeah. And I could do all of those things. Yeah. I was the student who, once the teacher talked for 5 minutes, I figured out the concept and I would literally drift off. And then she'd call me and say, what's the answer to this question? I'd look at the question and I already knew it, so I would answer and then I'd drift off again. So I was able to avoid getting into trouble because of that talent. But at the same time, I'm not sure that institutional education did as much for me as my parents did. I can say that it did not do as much as my parents did.
And as the real world education can do.
100%.
And that's kind of where I wanted to get a good start on this conversation. We only have a half hour to get to know Heath Oakes before many of our DJCC members actually see him. You can totally turn off Facebook Live. We're done with it. You're going to have to tune into the episode if you want the rest of it. I'm sorry. You're going to have to come back. Yeah, you got to want it. So as far as getting to know Heath Oakes, that's kind of where I wanted to start. When I go to something like a DJCC meeting, a happy hour, and I see a lot of people there, I think to myself, man, a lot of these people are just like, they seem successful. They have clothes that are nicer than mine. It seems like they really have it together. And it's incredibly encouraging to hear from somebody who had an upbringing that, for all intents and purposes, like you said, didn't go to college, was selling cars at 19, like makes you think like, man, I went to college. I had things going for me. And like, turns out that doesn't matter because you can be successful no matter what. You just have to want it. You have to have it drive. And after doing so many episodes of Second Shot with you, that's something that like I've really taken to heart. And I think of other professionals, this DJCC thing, and think to myself, for anybody out there that doesn't know if they're going in the right direction, doesn't know if like, maybe I'm doing I don't know. If it's difficult for me to quantify, if they don't know, like maybe what if it all doesn't work out? If they have doubts in themselves, I think you can look at somebody like Heath for inspiration. And it's like, you didn't really know back then, but like looking back, it's like, you didn't have to. You just had to have that drive, that encouragement.
But the problem too is, here's the thing is, the educational issues that I had, and this is what you'll get a glimpse of in the speech I have, is talking about how turning, how much the mindset of the struggle is such a positive thing, and that no matter how rough and tough it is, like I really look forward to the struggle. I look forward to something knocking me off guard and setting me on my butt and me figuring out how to overcome it, versus where some people get hit with the struggle and go, I can't help myself, right?
Yeah.
I look back at it, the educational disability was the best thing in the world for me, because sometimes I'll figure out and go, why is it that I always try to figure out some, I'm just very resourceful in trying to figure things out and go. And I go back to, in second grade, I knew that I couldn't read very well, and I knew that everything looked jumbled up, but I didn't want to tell anybody because I knew that the people who had that also went to this little box and weren't a part of everybody else, right?
Yeah.
I didn't really know what that was, but I knew that I didn't want to go. I like to be around people too much, and so I never told anybody. My parents never knew till 4 or 5 years. I never admitted my educational stuff till 4 or 5 years ago. I've always been the person who tells everything there is bad about me. That was something I held on to for a long time.
That's interesting.
It was tough. And
strategic, though.
Yes.
Honestly, strategic as a child to say, you know what? I don't want to be over there, and that's how I'm going to be labeled.
Well, and what I did was in second grade, and what's funny is I actually won the fastest reader award in seventh grade, in second grade.
Rock on.
Let me tell you how. The teacher would say, tomorrow we're going to read these chapters. And I knew she went by chair, each chapter. So what I did the night before is I would study the chapter I knew I was going to be in and memorized it. So when it came around to me, I could read real fast and nobody would know.
Wow.
Like it.
And so I look at it now and I go, that's kind of the things that I think that if it wasn't for that educational issue, I may not have ever been somebody that could be resourceful in figuring out issue. Instead of a problem stopping me, I saw it as a way to figure out how to beat that problem, right? At a very young age, which was ironic. And so you look at it and go, it was such a positive for me. It was such if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be who I am.
Honestly, I think you turned it into a positive.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of your personality, like having gotten to know you over the last couple of months that I've worked here. That's a part of your personality, because a lot of my lack of struggle has hampered me as an adult. 100% honest. We're being super honest this year on DJCC, are we not, this season?
We are.
I struggled. I really did, especially post-divorce. The divorce, coming out of grad school, having a baby, and the economy crashing all just happened at one time, and it laid me bare. I had to crack open the walnut and just see what to fix, and it took a long time. You'll ask anybody in DJCC, ask them about the board member I was when I first joined in 2013. It is not the same person I am today.
And the most important part is that you've evolved. Like, see, some people stay in it forever.
Right.
Some, as my redneck, some people want to waller in it.
Some people want to wallow in
I
it.
like that.
Yeah.
That's going to be my new hashtag.
It's a good one.
And so, but also, so I think about it. My book is called Ignorance on Fire. I had one of my first mentors, Elena. She was my first vice president of the company. We were sitting at the meeting. I was 23 years old, the youngest corporate executive hired. And I was way in over my head, and I look back. But she said at that meeting, she said, told everybody they had to handle their business because there was another lady that she just hired that had been with the company 30 years into the role. And I'm 23 years old in it. She said, I have ignorance on fire and knowledge on ice to deal with over here, so y'all handle your stuff, And I remember sitting there thinking, it was kind of like me in football. I was a quarterback, but it was only because we were a small team, and I was very slow. And I had an arm, and I could get I knew everybody's stuff. I studied, but I definitely was not that good. And coach would always go, only to the real athletes, only if you had Oaks' heart. Oaks, you sure got a lot of heart. And, you look at it and go, that's basically saying because you're no athlete, but you sure give it all you can, buddy.
It's a little backhanded. Yeah.
And when she called me ignorance on fire, it was almost the same thing. But I would rather be ignorance on fire than knowledge on ice.
Yeah.
And so I look at it and think the not being smart enough to know what I didn't know was a huge help. I was ignorance on fire. I didn't know what I didn't know. Sometimes us as we get older, what happens is we start learning more and we lose the childlike ability of just going for stuff. As a child, and especially watching my baby grow 7 months old and stuff now, you watch them, they just go for things. They don't think about it. And as a kid, you just try. The problem is now, as you get older, the more you learn, the more you know that oven's hot and you got a chance of getting burned and you won't try.
Right.
I was ignorance on fire. I didn't know that I didn't know. I didn't know that I couldn't succeed. I didn't know that was like there was nothing. The expectations for me were not very high, so there was really nowhere to fall from, right? And so I try to make sure as Sarah Blakely, who started Spanx, she was a copy machine salesman door to door for a long time before Spanx. And it was funny because she was talking about how when she started the company that all these women were like, oh, I had that idea a long time ago, but she's the only one who actually built it into a huge company.
Right.
And somebody asked her, why do you think you did versus the other ones doing it? And she said, it's funny because my dad, every day when we sat around, he always asked us kids, what did we fail at today? That was his question every day. So as a kid, we never, failing didn't bother me because I had to fail at something every day. And I think about that, and I that's what I want to instill in my daughter. And I think too many times today, people are told they're smart. People in the young generation is told they're certain one way, but failing is a sign of that you're not smart, which is not true. Failing is you're going for your passion, and you figured out every way how not to do it, and you're getting closer to figuring out how to do it. So, but it is funny how different the perspectives of how that can halt us and not,
Oh,
this
absolutely.
may be a DJCC on air episode, but this really has turned into something revealing for me. Ignorance on fire, knowledge on ice, because that's what I was for a long time.
Yeah.
I can write a book. I can write a history book. I have so much knowledge and facts and figures, but shenanigans if it took me forever to get out of my shell.
And look, in the funny, I'm a guy who struggles reading and all that, and I've written a book and had it published.
Right.
And it was because I did it, because I wanted to try it, because everybody I know said that I probably couldn't. And so, my buddies have a podcast called Fusic, for everyone who said I couldn't.
Yeah.
And that's something they have on all their stuff, and it's this whole motto of getting around, doing because somebody said you couldn't. And I guarantee out of all the teachers in high school, I was the last one they would have ever bet that was going to get a book published.
Right. So let's talk about your speech for the DJCC. What is it out of all of these things that you could talk about, out of being humble, being positive, staying positive, accepting and embracing failure, finding success in that, getting to know people, out of everything you do, what's your speech going to be about?
My speech is going to be about that, like you say, Kathleen, because you've known me for a short amount of time. You say that's my personality. And so what happens a lot is that it's not always been that way, though. This has not always been me.
True.
And so here's what happens, though, is people will see me now, and I have really nice suits on all the time and have a lot more things now. I've been blessed, and, the things have fell my way. And so I look back on it and trying to tell people that was not me 10, 11, 12 years ago. And I don't believe in selling these goods of change your life overnight with this. Okay.
Right.
I don't sell these goods of a fast, quick of anything. This has been a 10 to 12 year journey for me of putting in the time to get there. It's not an overnight. Anybody selling overnight success, anybody selling I'll make you rich quick, run. They're full of it. They're not really wealthy because that doesn't happen that way. It takes a long time. It takes a steady grind. It takes a consistent discipline to get things done. And so what I'm going to talk about in the speech really are 4 key things that whenever I had to ask myself, I didn't put out, look, here's what you're not going to hear. Set your goals for 5 years, 10 years. I've never wrote down my personal goals. I don't tell people, I'm not going to tell people what other people say there is with it. I'm telling you what I honestly went through. And I had these parts of my life that my mindset was the biggest thing. The good thing, if you think my mindset is this is my personality, that's what I tried to strive for, but it was not my personality naturally.
Right.
But
it's who you've become.
But it's who I've become because I have
important.
educated myself consistently over 10 years and looking at myself personally to change what I am and who I am to start owning it to make those things better. So I've got a deal put together that it's going to be these 4 really things that I can give that I guarantee you there are 4 battles everybody faces, but I guarantee you've never heard a speech on these 4 things because people typically do the same thing over and over that they've heard some other motivational speaker. So I'm not even a speaker. I'm not a motivational speaker for a living at all. So I'm just giving real what I went through.
And that's why I brought you in. Well, I working here, I have access to many speakers, not just in our stable, but outside. But what we're really looking for, because this is my group and I get to hone it, especially this year as president, is we're looking for authenticity. And the reality is I've heard the different points that you're going to make to our group, and it's true. All of us, even though you and I have lived very different lives and kind of opposite sides of the coin, The last 5 years for me have been more revealing. You say 10 to 12. For me, it's 5. I've grown more over the last 5 years than I in my entire life.
But that's also because you were older and more mature. See, when you're trying to do that at 19, it's going to take you about 10 years because you're not even close enough to being mature to make those steps faster, right?
Well, I appreciate you saying that it was accelerated because of my age,
Yeah.
but I think it was serendipitous timing.
It's not about age. It's more about life. You've learned more in life at that point.
Right. And a big part of it for me was just looking at, and it was scary stepping out of the career. I've walked away from my degrees, quote unquote, because the degrees that I have are for jewelry and art, etc. And I just have not found success. I was beating my head against that brick wall for a decade.
Yep.
And I finally got to a point where my best friend looked at me when I was offered this job, and I'm really good at this whole PR marketing thing because I like to talk to people like you. And sales. And she looked at me and I was like, I can't believe I'm walking away from my degrees and am I starting my second career? She basically slapped me through the phone and said, Kathleen, you're already in your second career. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because my mother's second career was actually probably her more successful. And she started that when she was 42.
Yeah.
You know, she switched from being a nurse to a lawyer and she made way more money being a lawyer.
Yeah.
Oh, that woman can argue with anybody. That's my daddy.
Well, you know, and I think about it as what you're going to get from me is you're going to hear a lot of words that I make up. Because
which are great, by the way.
Is it the dyslexia? Is it just jumbling?
And I don't know big words, so I'll just make them up.
Yeah.
But I'll make you believe I know what I'm talking. I'll make you think that you're missing out on a word. Okay?
I'm going to have to look for the dictionary.
This isn't a glitch. It's a feature, I
It is.
promise.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a good thing.
It is absolutely built in with it. You're going to get real. You're not going to get. I'm not somebody who tries to act like I'm not. I am me, and I own it, and I could care less what others think or not. But I think that if you want to hear the truth and no fluff, really, then you're going to enjoy it, I hope. And ultimately, at the end of the day, hopefully there's somebody there that goes, you know what, that helps.
And even though you say you're not a motivational speaker, that's really what motivates people. People really want honesty and organic, especially the millennial generation.
Yep.
We hear a lot of things about our generation that are negative, but the one thing that I have found over and over, and it's true, especially if you look at social media and the way we communicate now, people want organic. That's why I think I'm doing so well on our Facebook Lives for DJCC, because if I fall down and I trip over something, which happens a lot, I run into doors. I will. It's true. You've seen me run into a door.
Our 2018 president, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, there's not enough millennials that are living their truth. That there's these young people that have got rented Lamborghinis, taking a picture of it that they don't own, acting like they're successful when they're renting the dadgum cars and coming out. There's not enough real people that have real success to go. Here's what it is on top of it, telling what the truths and the downfalls and the upsides of success are, and what success can. You know, success to me is not just money. Success to me is whatever you want it to be, and it's many things. I reached a really pinnacle spot financially at a very young age, but never became really successful till I married my wife and had my daughter.
I was just going to say that. You said success means different things to different people. If you took away every dime I've ever made, and I haven't made that many, if you take every degree away from me, every accomplishment, every award, the one thing that I care about is being a good mother. I love being her mom and interacting with her, and I will give up everything else in this world to be happy and have a happy relationship with my child.
But the best part is you can have it all.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
I'm working on it.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? You can have it all, and that is the key with it, and that your success may not be what my idea is, and that's 100% okay. I always tell people that work with me and stuff, just because your success and my success aren't the same, I still love you.
Right.
And I'm going to love you to whatever success you want. I don't judge people based on that. And I'm not going to apologize for having a lot of money. Not going to do it.
Nor should you, because you've worked for every penny.
I'm not going to be the one to sit there and try to, feel bad because, I know what I personally do for others and everything else, that I don't need a justification from anybody else. I think being successful financially, being successfully personally, they marry together. But if you're somebody who doesn't want the personal life, the wife, the kid, and all that, you just want to go, you know what? That's your that's the best thing. We're America, baby. You get the option. You get the option to
true.
do both,
Yes.
and I think you'll get a little bit of that from the speech.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. One of the things I've resolved to do in 2018 is go to more networking events, go to more professional events, and out of whatever is going on when this speech happens, I'm going to do my best to be there. If not in the audience,
No,
Heath,
no.
I
Are you going to
apologize in
do your
advance.
best, or are you going to be there?
You see what I mean? It's worth listening to this guy.
Are you going to do
He's
your best, or are
gotcha.
you going to be there?
I'm going to be there.
All right,
gotcha.
everybody hear that? We got that on record.
Well, now I got to go.
Now you have to go. No, but I don't want to ruin the 4 points and give them away, but we discussed them earlier. And the reality is, and I think you and I are in very similar headspaces, and I think part of it is just living life and
Yes,
going through
100%.
trials and tribulations, is when you've come past those 4 points and you can reflect on them and they let go of who you are, or you let go of them, however you want to
Yep.
put it, there's a freedom.
There is
a
massive.
freedom. I have an intern working for me now who she's constantly saying, how can you just jump on that phone call and make that phone call? And I'm like, I don't care anymore. I do. I care deeply. I want to
yeah.
be successful, but I don't have the fear.
The self-doubt.
Maybe that's what it is. I don't have the fear. That's the right way to say it. I don't have the self-doubt.
You don't have
or the
self-doubt
fear.
anymore.
Because when I get the 2 phone calls I had the other day where they're basically like, bye-bye, no, don't call us again. I'm like, all right.
But don't you think if it wasn't for the humbling experience you had to go through, that wouldn't happen? You
Yes.
wouldn't be there?
Absolutely. I don't regret it anymore.
Because would you think that if you look back and go, you were somebody who was at the top of all of it, right? The education, you learned it all well, and then you got hit with some reality that made you go through those tough times. And if it wasn't for that, you would never have this type of real, like you thought you were confident back then before the struggle, but now it's real confidence. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I'm gonna
Because nothing can be much tougher than what that was.
Nope. And let me throw out the military expression: embrace the suck.
Yep.
I have learned to embrace the suck. The hardest part, the deep in the mud, all the way up to your waist. You don't know how you're gonna get out of this. Embrace it because it makes you better.
And if you're in the suck, if you just hold on a little bit longer, it's gonna pass.
Yeah, I think that's what people forget.
They do.
They sort of get lost the forest through the trees.
And I love it because whenever I was starting out in the insurance business and I was broke, and I would hang Christmas lights on the weekend, or I would do whatever I can to make money because I couldn't. I was broke. I was 100% commission door to door. How many people told me to get a real job? Over and over told me to get a real job. And what's ironic is that now those people are the ones saying that, yeah, but Heath, you're just so lucky. Same
Right.
people that were telling me to get a real job now are just like,
Nah,
you're so lucky.
Yeah.
You're so lucky. I'm like, buddy, I have screwed up so, if you play the lottery once a year and Zach plays it 100 times a year, who's got the best shot for winning?
Zach does.
Okay, so you would say, Zach, you're so lucky. No, he played it more than you.
Yeah.
I swing at the bat much more.
Yeah.
And I have screwed up much more, but you know what? I got lucky and hit the ball every now and then, but I swung it a lot more.
But you get to walk away from the screw-ups
Absolutely.
and you get to embrace the wins.
Yep.
Because the wins walk with you.
The taller the mountain, the greater the view. We are out of time, unfortunately. As much as I would enjoy to continue this conversation, we should do it at your speech. At least have some of this
And
going
you will
on.
be there.
I will be there. I will now, that's for sure.
I'm
yeah.
looking forward
Well,
to
now,
it.
yeah, now I'm like beholden to it. Now I'm like, I am going to be there. It's going to be great.
Well, you have no choice now.
right. Now I'm stuck. All right.
Maybe we should do a remote podcast. Just
This
throwing
is
that out
starting.
there.
Don't hurt yourself,
Look,
Kathleen.
This is starting your New Year's resolution.
It's true.
Of going out to it, and this is the first step of it. You got to actually
I'll do
make
it.
yourself do it.
I'm going.
You're there.
I'm going. It's going to
there.
happen.
It's like working out.
Matt should have to go too.
Match.
Oh. No, we
Whoa.
got to get him online
Oh,
here.
no, poor Matt. And Matt on the spot. There
Matt
he is.
hates
Yes. Matt, your mic's on. Feel free to
everything.
speak for yourself. With that being said, we're just about out of time. I want to get to Heath, but before I do, Kathleen, once again, what's going on with the DJCC this month?
DJCC, we have our happy hour at the Stoneleigh, and we are going to have Heath Oaks as our special guest for our membership meeting. I am literally calling every single member to bring them out.
Nice. Well, make sure you give me a call, too, because I'm going to need a reminder on that
You don't
date.
need a call because I'll make sure you're there.
Heath, how can people find out more about you?
You can look me up at Ignorance on Fire, Instagram, at Heath Oaks on Twitter, Ignorance on Fire on Facebook, and everything else. And Google me, you can find everything else about me.
Yes, and if you are a podcast listener, if you're listening to this, you are kudos. Check out Second Shot. It is a fantastic show. It comes out every Friday. I could not recommend it enough. If you want to hear more about
It's
Heath.
different. It's a different type
Check it
podcast.
out.
I've never heard another podcast like ours.
Me neither, and I love it for that.
We don't interview people, don't do any of that. We take headlines, we twist them up and change them up, take a second shot. It's pretty interesting. It's funny.
Yes.
And my beautiful wife comes on every now and then and
It's true.
graces us with her presence. So.
Yeah, the new episode 48, goes out today. So if you're hearing this, go check it out. It's on iTunes, Google Play, wherever you can find it. It is brilliant. Heath, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Kathleen, any last words?
Just 2018 is our centennial. It's 100 years. I'm working my behind off to make sure everything's bigger, badder, and better than next year and every other year.
I got to be honest, I think Heath Oaks is a good start.
That's why we brought him on.
I'm excited.
Because I'm so smart.
I'm so excited. I am pumped about it.
It's going to be good. Yeah, me too. I'm going on this now. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
You're listening to RNCN, the digital destination for premium talk radio.